What's up YouTube, it's Matthew here. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to talk about the new bill that was passed in the city of Philadelphia, now requiring wholesalers a license in order to wholesale. So this is obviously in response to that bill. I've been getting comments from my other videos and DMs for me to make a video about this bill and the different implications it may have on you and other states around this country. So if you all find any value from this video, all I ask is that you like this video and then comment down below on what you think will happen in your city, or if you're in the city of Philadelphia, and what you're going to do. And if you all are interested in learning the ethical and legal way to wholesale real estate A to Z, check out my online course down below on how to wholesale real estate. Another thing, big shout out to Meet Kevin. He really inspired me with the dress shirt and the tie and the whole thumbnail and everything. So shout out to Meet Kevin and his YouTube channel. Number one, for people who are new to this channel, what is wholesaling? So wholesaling is essentially putting a property under contract that you have with a purchase and sales agreement and intent to purchase a property, but before closing on that property, you actually sell that contract over to another person in order for them to close on that property. So essentially you have a purchase and sales agreement between you and the property owner, and then another contract between you and the end buyer for that property. So if you all are interested in those contracts, check the links down below. That is what wholesaling is all about. But what is this law? Why was this law passed? And what are the different licensing requirements and the different fees associated with this new bill? So if you all are interested in this bill and the different articles I read for this bill, check the links down below. What does this bill require for you as wholesalers? So this bill will require a licensing system for wholesalers. So they must follow a set of ethical guidelines. The licensing requirements include a $200 application fee. So there is a fee associated with this, basically paying for an application for this licensing. You also need proof of insurance. You need the name and the address of an actual person, not just an LLC, and a criminal background check. So you need, a lot of times when you wholesale a property, you can do it under an LLC. And so when bad things happen, people try to find who was this person, where do they live, and they just find an LLC with a business address. So by them putting this new law into effect, in order for you to get a license, you have to put an address down, not that doesn't go to a business, but goes to an actual person. And then on top of that, any criminal background checks. I don't know how long they're going to go with the criminal background checks, because people have started rough and they were able to build a good ethical business wholesaling. So I wonder what sort of effects that would have to different inmates, former inmates, and different people who had problems with crime in the past. Also in this bill, you have to provide homeowners with a disclosure. So there's a lot of disclosure requirements in this new bill, because a lot of times wholesalers, they may not disclose like the actual fair market value of the property, or like the actual cost of repairs needed on this property. So this law really wants the power to be on the seller's side, just knowing exactly how much your property is worth and what you can get for it. They need to disclose a seller's bill of rights at least 3 days before presenting an offer to the homeowner. So you have to have a bill of rights before even submitting an offer, which is crazy. And then this disclosure also has to include how to access resources that assess the fair value of the homeowner's property. So that's where it is. They need to know exactly how much their property is worth, because a lot of times, especially in places that are being gentrified, a lot of homeowners don't realize the value of their property or how much appreciation their property went up. And so a lot of times these people who are getting targeted by wholesalers, unfortunately, they're usually minorities or people that don't speak much English and different things like that. And they may not fully understand how the market appreciated in their area. And so by Philadelphia requiring people to give that information to them, it really helps the seller understand what's the best option for them. The disclosure also has to inform the homeowner of their rights, which includes the homeowner's rights to hire a real estate agent and to seek legal counsel. So this kind of goes back to knowing the fair market value of your property, because if you're a seller and now you know the fair market value of your property and it doesn't need much repairs, then that wholesaler has to provide information about different realtors they can go to and to seek legal advice so they can do what's best for them, not only get the best price, but to just legally do it the right way. The wholesaler must have the homeowner sign this disclosure as evidence that they provided it. So after they can't just show this information to them, they have to have a written document with the seller actually signing this disclosure. I think this disclosure gives the seller options. So if you're already a good wholesaler and you've been acting out in good faith, you always give your sellers options. Say, hey, I may not be the best option for you. You know, you can do this with a realtor, you can do that with a realtor. But unfortunately, a lot of wholesalers, or some or very few wholesalers, actually disclose that. And so now cities are requiring people to disclose that and even have that disclosure signed by the seller. Even on top of that, the bill also creates a do not call list for homeowners who do not want to be solicited to sell or rent their property. Any property owner who appears on the do not call list can request in writing that the commission remove their name from the list. The commission will fulfill that request within 30 days. Whether you're on that list or not, you can have it removed or added and within 30 days. So that's another thing in this bill. So the main three things to me that the bill is talking about is, number one, as a wholesaler, you need a license. No matter what, you have to pay that $200 fee, and then you need to get licensed or to wholesale. And then one of the biggest one to me and that I really like is, actually the disclosure needed on this bill. You have to disclose as much as you can to the seller about their property, what they can sell for it all fixed up, even if they sell it as is, and just the fair market value of that property in that specific area. What's going on in that area. Are people doing flips? Is there a new restaurant opening up? And then on top of that, they have different resources that you can give to the seller, like realtors and different legal advice that they can seek out. And then even on top of that, the bill includes that do not call list. So I think really cold calling, SMS, and different things like that, they're really going to be regulated even heavier, especially in the city of Philadelphia. So about this bill, I believe this bill is only in regards to the city of Philadelphia. So if you're wholesaling in Pittsburgh or other cities in Pennsylvania, I don't believe it applies to you. I think it's only citywide in the city of Philadelphia. So I just want to talk about some other things that I found interesting in this bill. So number one was the person who was really spearheading this initiative. His name was Council Member Alan Dome. Okay, so Alan Dome, he is quote unquote known as the condo king. So he's a real estate developer in Philadelphia. So he really came, to me, in my opinion, with a slightly biased view, because listen, he probably got tons of emails and mails and calls and texts from wholesalers wanting to buy his properties, and he's getting annoyed of it. And even more than that, he was probably looking at a deal another wholesaler was looking at, but the wholesaler ended up getting that deal. And after looking at the HUD statement, this condo king found out this wholesaler got it at this price and made this much. So there's definitely a competition in him that doesn't want other people to get deals that he wants. And so to me, that kind of slightly skewed this bill a little bit, because most people on this council member are just realtors and developers. Like, most of them are probably not wholesalers. So I think there are plenty of ethical wholesalers who could have been on this this whole initiative, really explaining what they do and how to do it ethically. So why did this bill come into place? So it came into place because, unfortunately, there are a few bad apples in this industry. In one of the articles I was reading, it was talking about a story about an older gentleman who inherited a property. This gentleman was 81 years old, and a wholesaler approached him, and he ended up picking up this new inherited property owner and bringing him to the town hall, making him sign this document in order to give this brother full rights to the property without, seeking counsel to legal advice or even talking to his siblings who own that property. And this wholesaler essentially made him sign this paper and sell him the property, which is illegal because the other siblings did not know about this deal or that they were selling this house. And so that specific wholesaler really acted in a shady way. I know for me in my business, I've been on appointments where I told the seller, hey, have you ever considered talking to a realtor about this property? Because you can sell this property for this amount of money. And other things like, hey, you all, this property is in very good condition. I'm not your best option. Here's a realtor I know. I even gave phone numbers and realtors to sellers that I know were just not a deal for me. And that's what you're supposed to do as a wholesaler in this business. Another thing that gives wholesalers a bad name, to my opinion, are wholesalers that can't close deals. Unfortunately, if you put properties under contract, you have to know that you can close this deal, barring that there's no legal or title issues on a specific property. Have I canceled on deals? Yes, I have, but most of the reasons are because of title issues. I think in my beginning stages, unfortunately, I did make that mistake not comping a property correctly. And so if I didn't comp a property correctly, I, wasted a seller's time and I couldn't find a buyer for that property, so that's definitely unfortunate for the seller. And so in order to properly train these people, that's why they require this license for wholesalers. Another thing that I wanted to talk to you all about was something else mentioned in this article about one of the persons that was on this council membership. It was actually a realtor, and she was saying that in her opinion, the licensing requirement is meaningless because it doesn't require the same level of training or education as a professional real estate broker. So yeah, it is pretty simple. You just pay $200 and you can essentially get a license. And for brokers, they have to go through more difficult training and education, and they even have to work under a broker probably a few years in order for them to fully get a license and be fully considered a broker. Another thing is that this bill doesn't get into place until sometime in January, mid-January, like January 15th or January 19th, around that time. So if you're wholesaling right now in Philadelphia and you don't have a license, it's okay. You can still wholesale legally. Of course, do it legally, do it with good integrity and different things like that. But this law doesn't get into place until mid-January. Looking at the timeline of this bill, so it was introduced on October 8th. So they had different meetings. It was read and passed on November 19th. So a month and a half later, and then even the mayor signed the bill on December 1st. So this whole thing took less than 2 months in order to close. So this was something that they were thinking about and that they didn't waste time with. In order for a bill to get passed, introduced and passed within 2 months, that is relatively fast for departments like this. So this was an easy yes for most people in the council and even the mayor himself or herself. So where do I see the wholesaling industry later on? With wholesaling real estate, I think that in this regard to this bill, I see this happening in more and more cities around America. People requiring licensing. Yes, it's very simple to get it, but it will in a way break or kind of stop the barrier of entry for some people. But at the same time, I don't think it's not as much as we think, because look at realtors. People become realtors probably every day. There are hundreds of thousands of realtors, right? It's easy for them, I guess, to get a bill, to pay for the training and different things like that. Very few succeed, but the licensing didn't really stop that career to grow, So I think in the same way that can happen to wholesaling. That yes, you do need some money, just $200 or something like that. But I think the education needed for this, it won't be as difficult as it would be for like a broker or something like that. But I do see more cities requiring it, and just other cities just cracking down on wholesaling and different things like that. So yeah, that's essentially the bill number let me see, it's bill number 200544 if you all are interested. And then once again, if you all are interested in the online course, check the link down below. Hope you all have a great day, and I'll talk to you all later.